This mutation is called Burning Legion and it is being played on lock and load. We have 3 mutators active. We have Void Rifts, we have Scorched Earth, and we have Avenger. So let's quickly have a look at the masteries. This game is going to get very hectic very quickly. Masteries are Stetmann, 30 points into the Gary cooldown, and 20 points and 10 into the Stet Zone bonus Ego Energy split, and then an 18-12 into the Satellite cooldown and Morph Evolution Rate Mastery. Karax has gone for 30 points into the Structure, 10-20 split into the Repair Beam, Chrono Wave Energy Regeneration, and 30 points into the Spear of Dune Energy Mastery. Karax has picked the Architect of War prestige, so this one is the Tower build. And Stetmann has gone for the Best Buddy prestige, which is by far the most powerful prestige that is available for Stetmann. You can see we have a probe over here now that is dropping some of the Karax pylons available to him, and the reason why is that he's preparing for the Void Rifts mutator. The mutators, Void Rifts, is going to start spawning. The first Void Rift will spawn at around 2 minutes and 20 seconds, and it's going to start spawning enemy units from those Void Rifts, so very important to get vision around the map, which is what Karax and Stetmann are doing. Scorched Earth, whenever enemy units die, they will set the ground on fire, and Avenger is the one that will buff enemy units as they end up dying. You can see the first Void Rift does end up getting cleared. This one is slightly outside of vision range, but Karax will be able to get a little bit of vision here. There's one Zealot that seems somewhat upset at the probe right now, but Karax is going to go in and he'll clear this out, get the probe out of the way as well, and he's going to be able to run away from that Zealot, eventually picking that Zealot off. Now, the hardest part of Void Rift is the early game pressure that the Void Rifts apply for the players. But as soon as you get your hero units out, especially with a hero unit like Super Gary, then ideally you should not be having any kind of problems dealing with the Void Rifts. But Void Rifts, like I said, the most difficult part of Void Rifts is handling the early game pressure that it applies in the game. Now, the one thing I did notice is the structure morph, the morph evolution rate mastery, and the satellite cooldown. You can actually reduce the number of points that you go into the satellite cooldown mastery if you're a little bit more active with how you spread your satellites. Also remember that you can use Super Gary's Gary Zone ability to be able to spread the satellites in spots that you would not normally be able to access, just by getting him to activate that, moving to where you want, and then clearing out, and then putting down your satellites behind him. So that is something that can be done. The reason also, one thing that is also really important to note about why I'm casting this mutation game is because this mutation is going to be the last mutation game that Punisher is going to be playing. Some of you guys who do know Punisher should be well aware that he is a German co-op YouTuber, and he does video game casts and mutation runs on his YouTube channel. But this will be his final mutation run. He has decided to retire from at least content creation. I'm still trying to get him to keep playing co-op, but it does seem that he has made up his mind in the fact that he is going to stop generating content for YouTube. So somewhat unfortunate, but it is really difficult to keep going generating content when Blizzard themselves do not seem to believe in the product that they themselves have created. So it is somewhat unfortunate, but that is the state of things. So this is going to be Punisher's final mutation game that he has submitted to Starcraft2coop.com. And yeah, this is just a little bit of a goodbye to him. You can see Super Gary now has actually cleared out the second of the 2 locks. So we already have a probe and we have a drone ready and good to go. Now we have a few swarm hosts here. That swarm host does not seem to like the fact that Karax has a pylon over here, and that swarm host now is parked over here. But we'll see what the plan is. But swarm host actually repositioning himself in a very awkward way, but Gary already in position now, and he's going to be jumping in. One Ego Orb is just going to move in from the side here. Someone actually jumps outside of the Stet Zone bonus. So you can see here how Avenger actually affects these units. Avenger makes units very tanky, so you really need high damage output units to be able to deal with Avenger units. But as you can see, Stetmann having absolutely no problem. There's one random roach over here that's going to try and run away, but that roach is going nowhere. And Super Gary ends up killing off his roach. Very conveniently, a Void Rift spawns right underneath Gary, so he ends up clearing that out. 3 of the 5 locks on this mission have been cleared so far, and now Super Gary is going to make his way, and he's going to start clearing out this next area here. So there are a few Vipers over here, really no big deal. One one Igor is going to end up pretty much deleting everything here, and now Super Gary is going to be chilling, and he's going to be stuck outside the zone. But this is what I was talking about. Using that Igor ability is very, very important. If you use your Igor ability, you can get away without using any of the stat zone or the satellite cooldown mastery, which means that your structures actually build up a little bit faster as well. You see Gary now already raised and good to go. He has his first Igor available. Next Igor is going to be available in 2 seconds. He'll be using that as well to clear out some more of these enemy units. Karax has decided to jump in as well, uses a Purifier Beam to take out the attack wave, which is very nice to the Purifier Beam over here. And now the Purifier Beam is going to be moving in to try and focus down this Hybrid Dominator that seems to be very upset with Super Gary, but that Hybrid Dominator is going to end up dying. The Satellite Overcharge is going to keep Super Gary alive as well. Very important to use that ability. And we have a few cannons now, and there is also a set of Void Rifts that have spawned. And unfortunately for Karax, this Void Rift is somewhat outside of range. Funnily enough, you can actually click these Void Rifts as long as you know roughly where they are. But Karax will need to get a little bit of detection, because you can see the units that spawn from these Void Rifts are pretty large in number. Now, one thing to also note about the Void Rifts is that the units that spawn from the Void Rifts will get more and more difficult to handle over the course of the mission time. So, when the mission first starts and you're at the 5-minute mark, you'll get Zerglings and Zealots and Marines spawning from the Void Rifts, but eventually you will start getting very, very nasty units like Void Rays and Hybrid spawning. So, very important to try and clear out these Void Rifts as quickly as possible. And on a mission like this, Lock and Load specifically, where you are playing on a mission which can be rushed, it's very, very important to try and clear the mission as quickly as possible, even foregoing the bonus objective if you can. Because once you start getting the double-pronged attack waves, it can get very, very hairy, and now as you can see, we're getting 4 Void Rifts spawning at a single time rather than 2, so it can get very tricky, and I think a lot of people end up losing missions where you have Void Rifts and these other mutator units that end up spawning. It's usually because they decide to extend and prolong the length of the mission a little bit more than they would be able to handle. So if you're able to clear this mission out before, 13, 14 minutes, you'll be fine. And as you go on to, the 20-minute mark, you're kind of asking for trouble if you're not very confident in your ability to play or your ally. Especially for those of you guys who do play this mutation on the random queue, it can get a little bit tricky, especially if you're not familiar with your ally's playstyle and how aggressive your ally plays. Just knowing how your ally plays and their kind of playstyle and what they prefer to do and the overall pace that they play their game at, it does make a huge difference. You can see here Super Gary pretty much going in complete rapid fire right now, just clearing out everything. He does use an E-Gorb. Unfortunately, that E-Gorb is slightly outside the set zone, so he's not able to clear out those Mutalisks. And now we have another double-pronged attack wave, and you can see here why the problems have started to come up for these players. So Karax's defense is somewhat problematic. It is being taxed a little bit, but Karax is putting down some more shield batteries to keep these things alive. And Avenger, like I said, does make it very, very tricky. Super Gary has ended up clearing out all the units near this lock, but there are still going to be a few more units here, and they will make their way towards the lock as soon as Super Gary tries to cap it. So that is going to be somewhat problematic. Over here we have ally required, so Stetmann needs to get his at least one random unit over here to cap this lock, and the final lock over here being somewhat contested by Amon's forces, but Super Gary will be able to pick this off one by one. It's just going to take a little while, and over here Karax will need to reinforce his defenses, and he's trying to get a little bit of vision. He wants to try and clear this Void Rift out, and you can see this is what he's going to do now. So the first Void Rift is in vision, next Void Rift is also in vision. Lots of Kaidaran monoliths over here just to make sure that Karax is able to clear out whatever's left of these Void Rifts. So 2 more Void Rifts, those things will end up getting cleared out. That will reduce the amount of pressure that Karax is facing right now in the game. But the 4th of the 5 locks have been captured, and over here all Karax needs to do is send in 1 probe, and he'll be able to cap this lock. And I think there are a few hybrids over here, but like I said, Amon's forces will not try and contest this lock until the players have tried. So Stetmann pinging his ally, letting him know to try and go ahead and pick up, send something over here. There's one random Zealot that just seems to be going full ham, but unfortunately he's not going to be able to actually take out this pylon, which is really, really funny. Karax's P1 is so good at making his static defense really tanky. You see now the Amon's forces will start coming in, but Hybrid stands no chance against the Kaidaran monoliths and Super Gary as well. And this is going to be the last lock that is cleared. You can see, notice how these players have actually ignored the bonus objective. Good idea over here. All 5 locks have been captured. Karax overkilling with the orbital strikes. But those are all 5 locks captured. Ulnar is saved, and that is GG.